Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Trade Group, and this is your end of day market video for Wednesday, June 22nd. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Please go ahead and read through the whole risk disclaimer there. We'll do a very quick video for the day and kind of summarize the price action. To me, another day of kind of what we're seeing more often than not is just a difficult trading atmosphere. And not a great trend going on. That said, let me go through a couple of the areas that stood out today. First of all, theme of the day, pretty much all day was just mixed breath. There was a little bit better performance out of what we saw in Nasdaq. You could see in the bottom left of your screen, but NYSE was kind of just challenged all day long. Just really didn't go anywhere in terms of breadth improving. A couple times we saw it improve, but then kind of get worse. And again, just a weird kind of trading session. We were down overnight. We rallied pretty hard for like the first hour of the day, 2 hours, and then not much follow through after that. So that's just kind of the way that this market has been acting, especially when you've got speeches going on and different events. Tons of Fed speakers today again, which are, in my opinion, a distraction. And we're into a little bit of resistance in the short term. So looking at the S&P chart first, price action is trying to basically carve out a bottom, but just having difficulty regaining any territory. So this has been kind of been the story since last Friday or the middle of last week, including the Fed day, and prices remained or behaved, below that 5-day moving average, right? And I think if you look at the 1-hour chart, something that we've talked about is the value area for the week as we kind of started, and we've been grinding higher. Here was the move in the overnight session last night, brought us down, and then we actually basically got to resistance for this week. Again, I'm on the 1-hour chart here, and this is the value area for the whole week, right? That's based on the majority of last week's price at volume. All right, so you could see the market profile in here. So 3809 resistance. Again, we got close to that, rejected it, and basically you can kind of see how this developed through the session. Again, you had to move quick, to kind of take advantage of this. This was just basically the first hour. A little bit of a pushback there, back to a move to the lows, grind higher. We did actually take out those highs in S&P, and then falling apart. So again, difficult really to kind of position with this, both on the long side and on the short side. Let's face it. I think that very difficult from both sides, with the S&P finishing down 20 basis points. So let's move over to Nasdaq, and we'll talk about that for a few minutes. But again, just have to kind of realize what market we're in. Some of the things that we've been talking about is that we just basically need to get through to basically get another inflation data point. Powell spoke today. I didn't really think that there was going to be anything material that came out of that congressional testimony. Why? Because the majority of these senators don't even know what the Fed does. It's embarrassing to know that these are congressmen, congresswomen, they're clueless. When you listen to these, and this is the same thing with any of these testimonies, it's embarrassing. The questions that they ask, they're asking refining questions. The Federal Reserve doesn't set refining prices. So that's why I didn't think that there was going to be much that kind of came out of that. A couple of things, if you do listen to some of these things, you can weed through the nonsense. And one of the things that I reiterate is that Powell talked about, I think he was asked, and I'll try to find the soundbite from this, but FinTwit, as well as the financial media, is so hung up with the CPI report The report that the Fed most closely monitors, and I've heard this before, I heard it today again, is the PCE deflator report. That comes out at the end of the month. So again, it'll be, when the CPI report comes out again next month, everybody will call it the most important one. But the Fed does look at the not to say that it doesn't. It does look at the CPI report, but it's kind of secondary to them in terms of other inflation reports. So again, the PCE deflator will come and go on June 30th. Probably won't even get much attention in financial media, but that's the one that they that they say that they pay very close attention to, right? So again, that comes on 6:30. That's another thing too that I just didn't think that we were going to get much information, because we just heard from Powell last week. We've been hearing from every one of these Fed speakers. Who knows why? I don't get the fascination with hearing multiple, 6, 7 different Fed speakers basically say the same thing in different language, right? That they're going to need inflation to come down, and soft landing speak and so forth. So that's the most, that's the events that we hear a lot about throughout the day. So in any event, let me get back to the Nasdaq and get back on track. This level here, 11,684, right? That has been acting as resistance since we broke this value area. Normally you have a couple different things that happen here, right? Once you break a level here, you either are going to retest and fail and start to kind of move back lower, or you're going to actually start to kind of get back inside the value area. So volume at price doing everything that we want to see. It's just a bit frustrating to know that there's this resistance here at 11,684, and price just can't get through it. So it kind of leaves this up for, are we seeing, if we cannot break this level, are we going to start seeing a move back down, right? And it's really tough, in terms of sectors, right? And again, here's what the 1 hour value area looks like too. So I've been using the phrase a lot, caught in the middle. So we did break out of the value area for the day, but we ran into the resistance on the daily chart, but we're still holding the top of value. So we'll see. So, something's got to give here in the next couple of days. But a little bit different price action. We got to the highs, very stronger price action in Nasdaq. Again, very little follow through. We did not break down. We did not take out the highs with this move, and then all of a sudden, basically at 215, we started to go lower, and lower to basically close through here. So again, very, very challenging in terms of not a lot of consistency, not a lot of trending going on. When the market does trend, especially to the upside, it's fast. It's an hour is basically what you saw. So you have to be really quick, and you can't stay in there to watch the paint dry right now in this market. So that's the story there. The other thing that was interesting today, which also kind of odd today, was the move in bonds. So right, let me bring this up here on the 20-year chart, but this is what I wanted to see, outside of equities, to see yields go down a little bit. And you had a nice move today. The 30-year bond rallied 1.8%, pressing into the 20-day moving average. So again, these things both taken out here to the downside. Remember in the weekend video, we also talked about, possible, reversal bar that we saw last week, which is this hammer bar. We're not over this moving average yet, but today was a strong day for bonds. Bond auction too, that I think was pretty strong, that kind of carried bonds through. But we'll see if this gets this move even. The higher that these bonds go, the lower, which means in turn the lower the yield, the more possible relief that we get in terms of what we're seeing on the equity side. Let's talk about the good and the bad in terms of sectors, right? Well, it seems to be slight more risk on, right? We talked about yesterday, the Chinese internet's had a strong day. They didn't do much today. Like, they were down today, and gave back some of those some of those gains, which is fine in my opinion, because they're getting a lot of attention, right? So not to say that that's a bad thing, but let them cool off a little bit, right? A couple names that I've been talking about is the PDD, which didn't close great yesterday, off those highs, and we'll kind of see. ASHR was the big ETF that saw a lot of call flow, was down 1.6% today. I didn't add to that. I started a position yesterday. I figured just, I can let a little bit more than one day go by. It's very difficult to kind of try to position in something, right, for a larger swing trade right now. So again, I continue to kind of just hold lighter positions while I'm doing swing trades. And the day trading is working. The sector of the day I thought was biotech, right? So biotech kind of building, right? And again, this looks different, right? So what we're looking, or what I'm trying to kind of spot, is some divergences and some things that are starting to look a bit more constructive. So when you look at this chart, right, this is the S&P. One thing to note here is that, of course, the May lows in here, we got the rally at the end of the month, and then we took out those lows, right? When you look across charts, there's various charts that price just didn't do that, right? So for example, biotech is one of those areas, right, that kind of came in and retested the May's lows, but is bounced. Now, we haven't really made, we've got to see a turn here. So we did close above the value area, but just by the skin of its teeth. 71.55 is the top of value, and we closed at 71.79. And I would also like to see a move above the 50-day moving average. That would also let me know that something different is going on here. It's the beginning of something. And we'll see if this can go further. But, if you looked across the healthcare and biotech sector today, there was some nice strength. Again, very difficult because some of these things faded at the end of the day. But remember, Merck was one of your stronger names. This did make it back above the 50-day moving average, back into the value area. So some strength there. We talked about UNH yesterday. That had continuation. Still has to get through a lot of resistance, but a very nice 2-day move if you're trading in the short term. Names like UTHR look pretty strong. This is a name I would probably one to watch definitely into tomorrow. This was one of I think this was one of my watch list names going into this week without having the sheet up in front of me. But nice move, nice follow through from yesterday. And yeah, and then there's a few other names too that are showing some strength. Bristol Myers is one to watch. This was very tricky, and it looks like it was kind of tricky price action today. Remember, like 2 months ago, I actually tried trading this for a breakout. Breakout failed, as a lot of times that happens in bear markets. But it's something to watch to see if we can get over 77.38. Eli Lilly was strong today too. It did take out a couple of some levels, some overhead resistance. I would make sure that this gets above 308. All right, so that's another name to watch there. Moving back to my spreadsheet over here, that's where I saw the strength today. And it'll be nice to see if that can move forward. Again, a lot of weakness and rotation, it seems, out of, for now, energy, which again, I don't think that this is like a horrible thing at this point. Crude did come back, by the way, for today. Like these crude, nat gas started pretty down on the day. Crude was down 4.7%. You got a break of the 50-day moving average. I would watch basically 102.40, right? And if that breaks, you'll really see this energy trade start to come undone. But I think as we've said, and as I've said in these videos, is that especially in bear markets too, you can't get comfortable in any particular area of the market. But there's going to be rotations, right, that are going to happen from time to time. I had this situation happen to me in years past where I'm giving myself a little bit of a pat on the back, but I've been doing this for a long time. Very good at spotting like where the market is kind of rotating out of, and that's why I'm interested in some of these groups, like the Chinese internets, like biotech, and some growth names as well, because we might very well see a rotation back into some of these groups, right? And you got to get your head, my opinion, again, I'm not giving it advice or recommendations, but if that happens where we do see, right, what happens to people, I think, especially like on Twitter, I see is they get very they get very attached to names. For example, right, there was so much attachment to the growth stocks, towards the end of last year, and I kept trading a lot of different names. I started to move into value stocks as they were showing just better trend. They were trending better, they were showing better momentum, and the growth names were breaking down, and it was very difficult for me to say, hey, you might want to start looking at this area of the market. And there was such loyalty to some of those names that it was very difficult for me to kind of, tell traders, like, look at different look at other areas. I think that's kind of going on a little bit. And I think some traders are adapting to it with energy, right? What happens is you get comfortable, right? And you find 15 names in a sector where you're saying, hey, this is working, this is working, this is working. But once these things, you got to have rules in place to say, if these things break down, right, then it's time to kind of, come back to them. The nice thing about that is that, once you go through the process of trading, more than a couple different names in a sector, you do get to learn, how the stocks behave a little bit, right? And you get to learn so that, you can come back to that group if it, if the technical setup, right? So for it to be a good trade. So keep that in the back of your mind. It's the same thing with, growth names too, right? So here's what I traded too. So just my point here in saying this is, be very unbiased, be objective, right? Is always in my opinion, is the best way to go through this market. And if you're watching this and you're a retail trader, the one strength that you have over, or one of the strengths that you have over an institution or from a hedge fund, right, is you could change your style. You don't have to be a growth trader. You don't have to be an energy trader. You don't have to be a value trader. You could go to whatever market is working for you. Right, you could be very, very flexible, and that's another word that I think is important right now. First of all, again, to kind of know that we are in bear markets, so you have to trade a little bit differently if you are trading in this market. I know a lot of people have just kind of said, "Hey, I'm going to sit on the sidelines." There's nothing wrong with that in this market, to wait for better price action. But my job is to basically look, scan, look for things that are acting a little bit different. Option activity sometimes points me in the right direction. I did buy some Futu today, right? That's a name that I talked about. It was a little bit weak in the morning. I think it was down about 3%, right? So I wanted to get into this name yesterday. It was just a little bit too hot for me. So I did buy that. I was able to take a quick target in this one. Even it's a starter position, I don't care in this market. I'm taking targets no matter what. Snow was, a name that saw a lot of option activity. I figured, it's not a name that I trade a lot, but I just said, hey, baby, I'm seeing this a lot, and this worked really well. I was able to get out of this, take several targets, again, not being greedy. Again, not the biggest trade, I'm not hitting $15, $20 targets, but it was just a day trade. Right. And that's kind of the way I've been tackling this market too, is if I'm going to trade something in a downtrend, it's most likely going to be a day trade, right? Because it is in a downtrend and I follow trends. All right. And that's it. I bought a little bit of ENPH too, right? That's another area that I've been seeing some signs of strength recently. This ENPH still has to get through 200. So that's why I was like, all right, let me just, dip a toe in right now. And see if this thing could break 200 by the end of the week, or possibly even next week. I think if it tests one more time, it's got maybe a little bit better of a chance to get through it. All right, guys, that's it for today. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.